Hello, today's lesson is the topic of food. IELTS Speaking Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. The topic of food often comes up in the IELTS speaking exam. You might be asked questions about what you like to eat, your favorite restaurants, or about a popular dish in your country. Part 1 questions you should always answer with 2 or 3 sentence response. The first question, the examiner asks, "Do you like to cook?" The student replies, "No, not really. Most of the time, I eat ready meals and takeaways. That's one of the reasons I love visiting my mum. You can always guarantee lovely home-cooked food." The student uses the vocabulary a ready meal. A ready meal is a processed food, a meal that you put in the microwave, a quick meal pre-cooked. Takeaways. Takeaways are a cooked meal prepared in a restaurant and eaten at home. So you take it back home. It's a takeaway. Our next vocabulary, home-cooked food. Home-cooked food is what it says. Food cooked at home from individual ingredients. Home-cooked food. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Thank you. Our next Part 1 question. What time do you usually eat dinner? Our student replies, "We have our main meal around 7 p.m. I'm usually starving hungry by then. In fact, I often grab a bite to eat as soon as I get home from college. A sandwich perhaps, but not too much to spoil my appetite." The student uses the main meal. The main meal, the most important meal of the day, usually eaten in the evening, dinner, usually the main meal. To be starving hungry. To be starving hungry means to be very hungry. It's an exaggeration, a way of saying that you are very hungry. To be starving hungry. The next vocabulary, to grab a bite to eat. To grab a bite to eat means to eat something quickly, usually when you're in a rush, in a hurry. To grab a bite to eat. Our last vocabulary from this answer, the student says, to spoil your appetite. To spoil your appetite means to eat something that will stop you feeling hungry when it's mealtime. To spoil your appetite. Our third and final Part 1 question. The examiner asks, "Are there any types of food you don't like?" The student replies, "No, not really. I'm not a fussy eater at all. Actually, I eat like a horse. I do a lot of sport and work up quite an appetite." To eat like a horse. This means to eat a lot, to eat like a horse. The student used a fussy eater. This means somebody who has their own very high standards about what to eat. A fussy eater. The last vocabulary, to work up an appetite. To work up an appetite means to do physical work that leads to you becoming very hungry. To work up an appetite. Our part 2 style question. The examiner gives the topic, describe a restaurant that you like to use. You should say, where this restaurant is, what kind of food it serves, how often you go there, and say why you like eating there so much. The student responds, okay, this is a nice topic to talk about. There's a restaurant just around the corner from where I live. It's an Italian restaurant. So, as you'd expect, you can eat various pasta dishes and pizzas. And I usually go there with my family for a slap-up meal. If we have anything to celebrate, it's quite a posh restaurant. The kind of place you would take someone if you wanted to wine and dine them. We usually order a 3-course meal, a light starter, then a main dish, and I have quite a sweet tooth. So I always look forward to the dessert. I usually order an ice cream. It makes my mouth water just to think about it. I'm always totally full up by the end. Why do I enjoy it there? Well, it's not cheap. My parents always foot the bill, and we couldn't afford to go there regularly, so it's always a nice treat. A great part 2 response from the student. The student uses a slap-up meal. A slap-up meal means a large meal. A slap-up meal. Then the student uses to wine and dine. To wine and dine someone means to entertain someone by treating them to food and drink. To wine and dine. The student says a 3-course meal. A 3-course meal is 3 courses, usually starter, main course is a main dish, and a dessert. A 3-course meal. The student uses a sweet tooth. A sweet tooth means you like sweet things. A sweet tooth. The student says to make your mouth water. To make your mouth water means to make you feel very hungry for something. And you want that food. To make your mouth water. The student says to be full up. To be full up means to eat to the point that you can no longer eat anymore. You are full. To be full up. And the student says to foot the bill. To foot the bill means to pay the bill. To foot the bill. Next, part 3 on the topic of food. Part 3 questions we must answer with 3 or 4 sentences. Our first question today, the examiner asks, how can we encourage people to eat more healthily? The student replies, I think the best approach is to have everything in moderation. Processed food won't kill you if you only eat occasionally. But people should also be encouraged to eat a balanced diet. Try to cook fresh ingredients at home a few times a week. Okay, our vocabulary from this answer, processed food. Processed food is commercially prepared food bought for convenience. Processed food. To eat a balanced diet. This means to eat the correct types and amounts of food. To eat a balanced diet. The student says, a quick snack. A quick snack is to eat a small amount of food between meals. A quick snack. To be dying of hunger. This means an exaggerated way of saying you are very hungry. To be dying of hunger. Our third question on part 3. Do you think cooking is a pleasure or a chore for people who have busy lives? Our student replies, well, whether you follow a recipe or make something up as you go along, I think cooking is a very creative process, and cooking for other people is a particular pleasure. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing people you love tucking into something you've cooked yourself. The student says, to follow a recipe. This means to cook a meal using instructions. To follow a recipe. The student uses to tuck into. This means to eat something with pleasure. To tuck into. And that brings us to the end of this topic. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Bye-bye.